Gotta love this time of year. Only one can be champion. Let's go playoff racing. I said, hey, hey, oh, oh, hey, hey. There's no surrender. Yeah, I'm here, my battle cry.
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Oval racing is its own beast, and while the Lotus 49 itself did not race on an oval, Lotus founder Colin Chapman did enter the Indy 500 multiple times. In fact, perhaps the most famous driver of this car, Jim Clark, won the Indy 500 in a Lotus. So, in homage to this heritage, the Lotus 49 community has elected to take a week to try their hand at circle track racing. Last time it was the fearsome Talladega, and this time it is the notoriously tricky Pocono. We'll see who of these road course masters is the most adaptable as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vanderveld. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Johan, any IndyCar fans watching probably already know their way around Pocono, but we might have some road regulars that are still new to this place, so fill us in.
A 4-kilometer super speedway. That's what's waiting for our drivers today here at Pocono Raceway. This track was opened in 1971, and like you said, Joe, it's quite popular in both NASCAR and IndyCar series. Another thing you mentioned was the Indy 500, and Pocono was actually designed by a 2-time winner of that race, Roger Ward. Roger modeled the 3 corners of this track all after corners of different racetracks, namely the Trenton Speedway, Indianapolis and the Milwaukee Mile. And because of this, each corner radius and each banking is very different, which gives Pocono more than other ovals a real road course vibe. So all in all, yes, we might be racing on an oval today in the Lotus 49, but this one is quite different from the ones you might be used to. And to really get a feel of how this track feels from on board the car, let's jump in our GSRC Lotus 49 as we take you for a lap around Pocono Raceway.
Alright, we've got John Ambrose in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Pocono. The front stretch is by far the longest straight on the lap. It's over a mile long. Drivers will be trying to use the draft to try and pass before turn 1. That's because trying to navigate into here and getting the car to rotate while also too wide will certainly hamper you both. Be patient since this is the longest radius turn on the track. However, it's very much about the corner exit. Fail to get a good launch and you'll know it because everyone's going to easily whoosh by on the long pond straight. The tunnel turn offers another chance to try and outbrake the other car, but honestly, if you're not hugging the low line, you're losing out on time and speed. You get one more quick breather with a short shoot between 2 and 3, but the action is likely to be non-stop, even on the straights. Then of course, the final corner returns you onto the front stretch and makes it by far the most important one to ensure you get a good exit. Be careful about wheel spin or understeering off into the walls out of the turn. Make sure and keep an eye on your mirror so that you know if someone's got a huge run, but hopefully you've now finished a lap around Pocono. You see, a lap around Pocono to give you an idea of what it's like racing alone, but racing in a pack is really where it's going to be at today from what we expect. Let's take a look at the pack in terms of points, though. And really, it's not going to look too much different as we bring up that F1 Drivers' Championship. It is still Michel Dudignon up at the top of things. He has only not won one race so far. That is one of his 2 drop weeks. So you can see with 45 points, he still finished second that day. Prado has been chasing him, but at this point, it's almost a foregone conclusion that this one is going to be Michel's. Rob Olenek manages to jump up into third. Teal and Trangrade as well, up to 2 positions each to find their way into the top 5. Let's take a look at the F2 Championship, Johan. Is that hopefully a little bit closer?
Absolutely, and that's mostly because Hugh Haycox last time around didn't show up at Oran Park. Now that allowed David Rossi, who had an incredible result in Australia, to really catch up and close up the championship. You can see it on screen, only 8 points between the two. However, it's not a 2-horse race because the third horse is Steve Hogan. He's only 15 points behind and still in championship contention. Now Philip Urquhart, the 4th UK driver that we have in our top 5 there, he's a little bit all alone in P4, not really close to the top 3 and also quite away from Andres Bruno, who closes out the top 5. Andres Bruno, meanwhile, he has to look behind because Johnny Bell and Andrew Eng are not far away from the top 5 position either.
And we have a Constructors' Championship. Now they run it like F1 did back in '67, in which it is a Nations Cup instead. Of course, France is leading. The UK trailing behind, which, as you can see, they have a lot of drivers who are contributing. They are in a little bit of a battle with the U.S. Teal and Olenek trying to do their best to bring the battle across the pond. Brazil with Prado, the only one out there, has taken them up to 4th place, and then Germany has really come to the fore lately. They are in P5. Now, in case we have people who haven't watched this series before, especially today, why don't we fill them in on exactly how this is going to go?
Yeah, this is round 10 of our 12-round championship. 2 watermarks, that means 2 drop weeks in this championship. The race distance at Pocono will be 38 laps. Drivers can change the setup just to their liking, and the points will pay out to 25th position.
They will have cautions in this race, unlike usual. Because it is C-Class racing, even though on the roadside they wouldn't normally have full course cautions, especially in these cars. Here on the oval side, they are required to have them. Now, as always, you're required to watch this first broadcast here on the IESN, the iRacing Esports Network. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure and click on the big red button that says subscribe. It's on their YouTube page, or it's just below this video if you're watching on YouTube. And you won't miss a moment here on the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends if you do so. Right now, we're watching qualifying. A number of new drivers out here today. 33 drivers. Speaking of Indianapolis, this is a very familiar number. And this unfamiliarity, I'm not sure if it's going to be a help or a hindrance, Johan, because some of these drivers could be oval specialists.
Yeah, you can see that on top of the screen. Those are 2 names that we don't see a lot. Valentijus and Cullen Brown. Both of them have completed their 2 laps and are on the front row of the grid. Meanwhile, I have to say, P4, Michel Dudillon, he's not starting on the first row of the grid. And that was something that we didn't expect looking at practice, because he was really on top there, basically 2 tenths quicker than everyone. But he just cannot get it together in qualifying. The temperature today, however, is also quite warm. Mostly cloudy, as you can see above the track, but look at the track temperature, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that's way different than it was in practice, so that might be catching some of the drivers out.
Now, I've driven this car on a couple ovals, as this isn't the first time that this series has done this, but it was Indianapolis and Phoenix in previous seasons when I was still running. So I had to pick the brain of the brother of our director, John Ambrose, who did the lap. And the one thing he kept stressing to me, Johan, was corner exit, corner exit, corner exit. And I guess that makes sense, because you look at the straightaways here, they're longer than any other straights of the other ovals.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the exits out of the final corner and the first corner. Those are important because you have long winding straights after them. Turn 2, still an important corner, but that short is actually quite a bit shorter than, for example, the start-finish straight. So maybe that one's a little bit less important. But you're absolutely right. The corner exits will be incredibly important. Now, in qualifying, with the driving all alone, that actually is a little bit easier because once the race is getting underway, you will have 32 cars swarming around you. We have 33 cars actually registered today, so it would be really difficult to get the power down efficiently every single lap. Meanwhile, on screen, we have Stefan Slaker, our DH driver and commentator here at GSRC. He's coming through the last corner. Now, he hasn't set a qualifying lap, so let's see where Stefan can put his car over start-finish line. Actually, doesn't look like he actually set a time. I think that he hit the wall coming out of the final corner.
Great trick definitely did there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very easy to do, of course, to hit the wall once you really try to get everything out of the car. Meanwhile, Gary Thiel, we're looking at him. He has currently set a 55 second .561. That's his first qualifying attempt. He has 2 more corners to go, if I'm correct. No, he has 1 more corner to go. After this is just a straight run down to the finish line. Currently sitting in P12. Now, he only needs to win 11 thousandths of a second to gain 1 position. He doesn't do so. He's 2 tenths slower in the second attempt.
And Schlacker, I believe, is here's Jamie Hall. Now, Jamie Hall has the pole, and I think he's completed both of his laps, so he looks to be done. Provisional pole sitter there. Schlacker crosses the line with a 55.3. Good enough for 9th place, cracking the top 10.
Absolutely great lap from him. Let's see who actually is still on the lap at the moment. I think Colin Bentley was the only one. Yeah, he had a problem. So he's out. So that means that the pole will go to Adrius Valentisius.
Excuse me. Yeah, I needed to scroll up on my time and scoring. It was not Jamie Hall. You are correct. So with that being done, why don't we go through our starting order for the day? As you mentioned, Adrius Valenteus will be on the top spot. Colin Brown starts in second with Rob Olenek in P3 today. Row 2 is completed by Michel Dudignon, our current points leader. Eventually I get to the right P word. Dave Price starts in 5th with JB Hull on the outside of him in row 3. Ove Trangrade starts P7. Then it's Mick Claridge, surprisingly down in 8th. Stefan Schlacker with a very good time to start in 9th. And then Eduardo Prado will be 10th.
Marco Kika, that's a name that we haven't seen in the last few weeks, I believe. He starts the race in P11, just in front of Daniel Cedro on the outside of row 6. Gary Thiel with his 55.5, he only gets to P13. He's flanked by Billy Bob Wright. Bruce Nelson will start the race in P15, flanked by Colin Bentley. Steph Veenhoff, that's a driver that we normally see driving Mazda's MX-5s, where he's actually quite capable of the Lotus 49 as well. Right in the midfield, starts in P17 in front of Ben Laughter. Behind him, the final row in the top 20 will be between Henrik Tobias Bergman and Eric Leugel.
David Rossi starts 21st, then it's Bill Tyler in 22nd. Craig Harrigan will be 23rd today. Martin Krejcik, obviously having trouble in his qualifying, will be 24th. Michael Sullivan starts P25, followed by Andres Bruno. Yaya Enos Akin will be 27th. Rodney Evans, 28th. Colin Coker starts 29th. Last driver to get a time in qualifying was Jasmine Beach in 30th. Ang, Anderson, and Reynolds rounds out the field. Drivers are getting gridded up, and this will be a first here on GSRC. We're going to see a standing start for an oval. Not sure why they did not elect to have the pace car out there, and if that was iRacing or the community itself that wanted the standing start. But we'll see how this all goes. It is a long run down to the first corner. Will it be a bit of a mess into there? Will everybody file in orderly? It is also a wide front stretch, so there are opportunities to try and fan out and get position. Just waiting on one driver. It looks like he's not going to make it out because the lights are up, the engines are revving. Green flag is out. Valenteus with a decent start as most of them get up to speed pretty slowly with the tall gearing here at this track. Olenek already looking down to the inside. but he's having to fend off Michel Dudignon around the outside as they come into turn 1. Dudignon using that banking to great effect. He'll take third place away. And I believe we're through clean. I'm not seeing any problems.
Oh, Stefan Slacker almost involved with 2 accidents. He's threaded the needle, got caught out on the exit of turn 1, is falling back tremendously. He's currently behind Cedro and Kika. Everything's fanning out in the top 10 at the moment. Don't we actually see any problems in the back of the field as well, where they actually went 5 wide at one point. But up front, Adrius, he's just driving away. He's a few tenths to Colin Brown, but Colin Brown is having a good final corner. He's catching up a little bit there.
Round to complete lap 1. Your top 5, Valenteus, Brown, Dudignon, Olenek, and Price. Now we're getting an idea of just how much the draft is worth as Brown reels Andreas back in. But it's not enough for him to have an attempt at a pass. They are going to stay in order. It is a pretty single file up at the top, but in the mid-pack, it looks like we got a few drivers looking side by side.
Yeah, let's take a look soon at Stefan Slacker, because he's really throwing his car in like it's a final lap of the race. He's currently in P12, but let's go on top. Michel Dudignon, he's really close to our top 2 at the moment, but Colin Brown is having a great run out of turn 2 there. Take a look. We see a wreck further down the field. Who's that? Daniel Cedro.
And
actually staying.
Yeah, he was able to pull it off into the grass, so it looks like the marshals have elected not to throw the caution. Let's take a look at it. It looked like he just understeered.
Could be we go to a replay of that. Yeah, of course, the car is still with maybe slightly cold tires. He was right behind Stefanov. Maybe he just didn't anticipate how slow Stefanov was going through the corner as we actually have a yellow now. Yeah.
Ooh, it's a big one. It looks like Billy Bob Wright involved in it. I see Bruce Snelson on his lid. A lot of drivers having to take evasive action to get around him as he drifted back down into the racing line.
Yeah, but it all started between Billy Bob Wright and Ben Laughter, I actually think. They really were involved in that, and Bruce Nelson was completely mixed up in it. If we go on board with Snelson, you can see that the 2 drivers in front, Laughter and Billy Bob Wright, they hit each other in turn 1, spin each other around, and then everyone behind them just gets caramboled into them. Nothing the drivers behind could have done there to avoid it anymore. We go now on board with Snelson, which must have been a very scary incident. He's all alone. Not really anything happening in the world until the 2 drivers in front crash. Just flips it over his lid.
If things go wrong at these speeds, they go wrong in a big way. If we want to get on board, I guess we'll come back live. I was going to say Eric Loikel managed to thread the needle through that. As that was happening, we were watching that first replay of the incident with Sadro. Colin Brown had gotten by Valenteus, so your new leader is the number 4, but we are now pacing under yellow for the first time here today. Now, normally in oval racing, we talk about pit stops and whatnot. But these cars obviously don't need fuel, and I really don't think we'll see anybody come in and take tires on these cautions. If they do, well, I think we'll all find out exactly how that'll go. It sounds like did something happen to Rossi that we missed?
Yeah, Rossi was also involved in that incident, but it was incredibly unlucky. I don't know if we can go to that director, what happened to him, but David Rossi was also involved in that incident. It all happened way in front of him. He slowed down and was completely caught out. I think it was by Yaha Enes Akin, who rammed him in the side, flipped David Rossi around. Now this is incredibly painful for David Rossi in the Formula 2 championship. Because with the absence of Haycox, he could have grabbed the lead, but with this crash, of course, that is not happening. You can see him here on his lid. If you go a little bit further, you can see now actually what will happen with David Rossi. He sees everything happening in front of him. He just slows down. Actually, seems to pass everything that happens in front of him, but just watch out. Something will happen on the left there. Jaha coming back on the track and just flips him over. That's really costful for David Rossi's championship aspirations.
Yeah, it looks like Akin just hit a bump down in the grass as he was taking evasive maneuvers, and unfortunately it sent him to the wrong spot at the track. at least for David Rossi. That was a good catch there, Johan. I completely missed that. Let's take a look and see how the lead changed hands since we got time under this caution and see how Cullen Brown got this away from him. Believe it happened down into turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And it actually was a very straightforward pass. You still have quite a bit of draft on those long straights, especially the start-finish straight. And Cullen just had a great exit out of the final corner, swung it to the inside. There was not a lot that Adrius could do after that. And well, after that, Cullen Brown was just very lucky because the yellow came out quite soon after that, so he could consolidate his newfound lead position. That
Now, let's see. Are we starting single file or double file? Trying to see if I can find information on that, because I'm not seeing that in our information tab, unfortunately. We'll find out soon enough, as we didn't have any cars down a lap. But still, a number of drivers have suffered severe damage from that incident. Laughter, Tyler, Bruno, Sadro, Snelson, Rossi, and Evans are all still sitting in pit lane. Coker has been in and out, and Michael Sullivan have also come in and out. So if they've had damage, it was minimal, but aerodynamics going to be important at this track. Lights will stay on, so we'll have at least 2 more laps to go. Getting some questions from viewers. Understandable, since this might be pretty new to a number of them. Johan, one of them is asking, what is the draft like in the Lotus 49 compared to something like, say, the Skippy?
Well, that's actually a very interesting question. The reason is, or the difference between those two cars, especially, I would say, is that the Skip Barber doesn't have enough. As much engine power, horsepower, as the Lotus 49 has. So if you're driving all alone in the Skip Barber, you're really hurting if you're not in someone's draft. You really notice that. In the Lotus 49, it's more of a small boom to your lap time. Of course, you will be a little bit quicker if you have to draft, but still, if you're all alone, you don't notice the difference that much. So I would say that in a car like the Skip Barber, it will be more important to stay in the draft than something like the Lotus 49. But on a track like this with long straights on an oval, man, you're really gonna need the draft to get yourself that slingshot to get by the car in front.
Well, we've already seen it at least cause a change of hands for the lead once. How many times will we see that lead change hands today? Coming back around, we'll see if the lights go off this time by. It is pretty cloudy here today in the Poconos. It's still 101 degrees on the track surface, though, so relatively warm conditions. Sounds like one of our drivers has gotten back out, though, after taking some repairs. Evans, get back out there? Yes, he did.
Yeah, Rodney Evans is 2 laps down at the moment. I think this will mean that he is P26. Once he crosses start-finish line, he has to overtake some of the drivers that are standing in the pits at the moment. So yeah, I'm actually really curious how his car will handle Joe after the incident he was in. And well, he's swerving a little bit to keep his tires on temperature. That might help slightly. But let's see if his car still handles well, if the suspension is still like it is when the race started. Because that's going to be really important going forward. And meanwhile, the lights are out, and it seems like we're going to have a double foul restart here.
It does look like Evans' bodywork is okay from those camera shots that we saw. But yeah, a double file restart. Hopefully these drivers can manage it like they did with the double wide standing start. Should be, I would imagine, at least a little bit more orderly as long as nobody gets too checked up coming out of the final turn. See a lot of cars elected to show up for this very unique round. We saw pretty good fields last time we did this at Talladega as well, so I suspect this is going to keep happening in them picking popular or at least free ovals and trying how the Lotus 49 is on those. This version of Pocono being the older one. iRacing actually has a newer one, but this one being free, they elected to use this one since the bumps aren't really as much of an issue in this car. It is pretty compliant over those. since it was built for the 60s and also has no aerodynamics anyways. Well, no downforce aerodynamics anyways. Coming out of the third turn, waiting behind that Mustang pace car. Brown has control of the field. He does not wait, accelerates away, gets a great jump over Valenteus, who already is under threat from Dudignon, the Frenchman. He wants to win an oval race as well. He didn't get to win it last season. It was Trangrade who got it at Talladega, but forced around the outside. Dudignon has to give up the ghost. He's got nowhere to go. A lot of battling behind them, though, from fourth on back.
Yeah, that's what happens with the double foul restart. Almost contact between Craig Harrison and Billy Bob Wright. They avoid each other. But meanwhile, the top three, they're driving away from Mick Claridge, who had a horrible restart. You can see immediately that there's a gap between the top three and the rest of the field. In that draft, you can the top 4, 5, 6 drivers, they gain a little bit though. It's not like the top three can extend the lead. Meanwhile, Dudillon was prodding left and right at the beginning of this lap. At the moment, it's Adrius.
We got a big accident. Ooh. That's Dave Price. I'm not sure who he hit. Everybody manages to get down below. Almost everyone. Let's take a look and see how this started. I was kind of watching Price because he was slow through 2 and out of 2.
Gary Teal.
Looks like it was Gary Teal. Oh. Teal usually very fast around in the Lotus 49. Both of them with just huge hits. See, Colin Coker also had a separate incident with Gary Anderson as they were trying to evade what was going on in front of them. This is the onboard with Teal.
One car that was also involved in that, I think, was Greg Harrison. He didn't have a very hard hit, but he just skimmed the car of Dave Price when he was coming to a still.
A little bit of yellow fever here at the start of the race. This is Coker, who I believe is going to get into the back of Anderson. Yeah, there you see it. Just the two of them, unfortunately, trying to slow up, and miscommunication caused a little contact. Both were able to continue.
Also a big crash behind by Yaha Enes Akin, who basically had a spin trying to avoid the incident. Wanted to catch up to the rest of the field and just saw too late that the drivers in front were slowing down, especially Robert Reynolds. Went on the brakes hard over the start-finish straight and just hit the wall in real hard fashion.
Let's see. We're going to try and pull up the replay here. Oh! Yeah, that is unfortunate after all the repairs that he did. Unfortunately, gave himself a little bit more time to think about how things are going. Well, while we wait for the second caution of the day to play out, we'll take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Again, stick around. We've got a lot of racing left to go here at Pocono. Welcome back to Pocono Raceway. We are getting ready for our second restart of the day here at Pocono. This is round 10 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends. And no, you're not imagining things. They are racing on an oval here at Pocono. This is becoming something of a tradition, at least here in the Lotus 49 community. They certainly seem to relish a challenge, and this one has proved challenging. As I mentioned, we already have had 2 cautions. You can see we're going to restart on lap 13. So they haven't had too much in the way of green flag racing yet. A few drivers have already fallen out, although some have come back out after their repairs. Andre Bruno, Bill Tyler's back out there. Bid Laughter, despite a car that is crabbing badly, is going to try and get some laps in. Let's hope that it's not too bad once it's up to speed. David Rossi is trying to come back out there. He's fighting for that Formula 2 championship. It's understandable that he wants to try and get as many positions as he can, since others, unfortunately, will fall out or have fallen out, and he could scalp some positions. They come through turn 3 behind the Mustang pace car, and it is Cullen Brown who is going to have control of the field. Last time, it was a very good restart on his part. Got a very early jump, and he's not going to wait around yet again. Green flag is out. Cullen Brown down low to the inside as he drifts back up high to take the racing line. Valenteus follows him in second place. Dudignon still in third. It was a 3-car breakaway coming through turn 1 last time, but instead, Michel Dudignon being challenged by Mick Claridge up around the high side. He can't get the shot off the corner, though, so he settles back into fourth, but it looks like we got a challenge for the lead. Valenteus thought about it, and now he backs out.
Yeah, there's more challenge for P3 at the moment with Mick Claridge looking on the inside of De Jong. He is sliding, he's doing the same thing that he did in Oran Park last week that killed him in the end. He saves it this time around though, and Rob Olenek has to check up and is under pressure from Jamie Ho. Tries to take away that top 5 position on the inside of the final corner. Doesn't have the momentum that Rob Olenek has, who just goes deep or wider into the corner. Gets more momentum that way and can save his P5 position. Eduardo Prado isn't that far away either, as all the cars just go to the inside to try and break the draft. The only one who doesn't do it is Marco Kika in P8. He just follows the racing line, and it actually doesn't help him in the end.
Wow, just an absolute snake down the front stretch. Brown knows how much the draft is worth. In fact, he stays high coming through turn 1, and that does not seem to help him because Adrius, unfortunately, is going to get the inside, and we get a caution just before he gets the chance to make a pass. Now, who is this?
I think it's David Rossi, who had a blown engine, came to a halt on the inside.
Now, Ove Trangrade had a separate issue, I think. As he was trying to slow down, the car unfortunately snapped on him, and he found the inside wall down the Long Pond Straight.
Yeah, it actually might have been over Trangrade, the one who caused it this time around. You can just see it. It's a weird point where it actually happened, though.
I think his incident happened after the caution fell. Yeah, I think I'm pretty certain it was Rossi that caused it, but still, Trangrade's significant since he's typically a front runner, and as I mentioned, our winner of the last time we were at an oval. What's strange about Rossi is his engine blew, I think, in turn 2, and he just if he would have coasted in the pits, we would have been fine. And he tried to pull it off the racing line, but the iRacing marshals still felt it was a danger. As you said, pulled out the caution.
Yeah, it's difficult exactly. He was trying to slow his car down. He probably doing one downshift there and just maybe did a double downshift on accident. Just popped his engine there. Like you said, if he would have gone to the pits on the inside, it would have been fine. Maybe he couldn't get it steered to the left. I don't know. Maybe just try to save it to see what would happen. Maybe. Unfortunate for David Rossi, because we mentioned it before when he was involved in the crash. This really will hurt his championship aspirations now with Hugh Haycock's not being there. Steve Hogan, Philip Urquhart, Andres Bruno, those drivers can actually close down the gap. And I think that only of those drivers, Andres Bruno is there. Luckily for David Bassi, he's also 5 laps down. The Brazilian or the Argentinian is still driving though. So he will be able to score some points and just close the gap to the top of the championship.
Got some information in the in-race text chat from Ove Trangere. It says that he missed the flag and he panic braked. So that's why he suddenly swerved to the inside. And that is likely going to either end his race or at least severely hamper him.
That's of course easy to do as a road driver. As a road driver, you're usually not that used to having cautions in the middle of the race. So suddenly everyone in front of you slowing down when you don't expect it, they can really catch you out. And right at the point where Ove Trangere, of course, was driving, it was right when he went into a corner. So normally you have to brake a little bit. This time around, you have to brake a lot more than you're used to. And that can just upset the car in such a way that you just loop it around. And that's the end of the race for the Norwegian. Meanwhile, we just had a nice graphic showing the amounts of positions gained and lost by the drivers. And I was actually looking at Mick Claridge, who's having a good race so far, gaining 5 positions, all the way from P8 to P4. So I think it should be 4 positions, but he was in front of Dudillon coming over the start-finish line last time around, so that's why it says 5. But good race so far from the Brit, who had a poor qualifying, is really making it up in the race so far. Let's put some emphasis on Stef Veenhoff as well in P9. What a race from the Dutchman there. 8 positions gained so far from P17 to P9. Really staying out of all the trouble today. And that's well paying dividends for the driver who you don't see that often in the Lotus 49. If we go back 2 positions from there, we go to another driver from Western Europe, Eric Leukel from Germany. 9 positions gained so far by him. Good race from that driver who we see more often in the Lotus 49. Also an oval specialist, you would say, judging by the position he currently is in. And Greg Harrison, that's also a driver that won quite a bit of positions. 11 so far, started in P23. Currently driving around at P12, so good race from Greg Harrigan, who was involved in the incident between Dave Price and Gary Thiel. Actually hit the car of Dave Price once it was coming to a halt off the oval. And luckily Craig didn't suffer any damage, and you can just continue and score a very good run here at Pocono.
Well, we started to get a little bit of a run going, and unfortunately are under caution yet again behind the pace car. Cullen Brown has got to be a little bit nervous this time. Andreas certainly seems to be a little bit more aggressive now and trying to get that back. I wonder if he's taking into account the yellow flags that are coming out, thinking he's got to make his move quick if he wants to get the lead back. We're talking a little bit before the broadcast about oval racing and drivers in this car. The 2 drivers probably that are very well known for driving the Lotus 49, both Graham Hill and, of course, Jim Clark, both won the Indy 500 in separate years. However, surprisingly, Graham Hill did not win in a Lotus. I have to go back and check to see which car he was driving, which team he was driving for, but he did team up with another Formula One driver that year, and that was Jackie Stewart, of all people. See, they're coming out of the tunnel turn now and into turn 3. Still lights on the pace car are on. Getting ready to start lap 18. There's no time limit on this race, so this might go a little bit longer than we're used to in this series, these 38 laps.
Seems like the lights are out at the moment, so only one more lap and then we go racing again. I was just looking through other drivers that are having a good run so far today. Andrew Eng, he's currently driving around in P16. Now that's a driver that's a hard charger today. He won 15 positions already. He started, of course, the race as one of the 3 drivers without a qualifying time. But that actually didn't hurt him that much. He just stayed out of trouble, gained 15 positions, and is now just right in the mid-pack. Now, we didn't see him in the top 5 at the beginning of the broadcast in the Formula 2 Championship. He's just under that, and I think with a run that he's having today, if he can just keep it clean and out of trouble. Andrew Eng will be another driver gaining a good half points. And what about Robert Reynolds? Robert Reynolds is usually a driver that we see further down the field. At the moment though, driving around in P19, Robert is just showing great consistency here, not making any mistakes, also keeping clean, keeping out of trouble. You can see it on screen, winning 15 positions already this race, so a good result from the Midwest driver as well here at Pocono.
28 of our 33 starters will take this third restart of the day. They're recently joined by Gary Teal, who manages to return to the track. David Rossi, Aiken, Price, and Snelson all appear to be out. Snelson is still in pit lane taking repairs, but he's been there for 26 minutes, so I'm not sure that we will see Snelson come back and try to finish this race. If he will, he'll be many, many laps down. All right, coming out of turn 3. Cullen Brown's getting a lot of practice on these restarts, but both of the previous times it was a quick restart. It's going to be another one. No waiting at all. Cullen Brown off and away like a shot, but so is Michel Dudignan. He seems to have timed that one very well. He's going to ride the slipstream of Valenteus, but I'm not sure that he's going to be able to get there in time. Slots back into third behind him. Mick Claridge giving another look, and he might actually get a nose in as a big checkup. Oh, and we got another caution.
Oh wow, heavy crash in the field, back of the field by Henrik Tobias Bergman. He is the one who causes this caution. The fourth one already. 3 wide into turn 1. Now that's not going to work, of course. It really was a crash between Stefan Slacker, Henrik Tobias Bergman, Colin Bentley. Now I have to say 3 wide in turn 1. That was not exactly what happened. I think it was Colin Bentley just getting his car loose a little bit. You see it from on board the blimp. The car in the middle, that was Colin Bentley. He just gets loose, and that means that both the cars of Stefan Slacker tries to pass under him, and Hendrik goes to go above him. And that causes the 3 to bunch up.
We're going to watch from Bentley's perspective. I want an onboard of Stefan Schlacker as well. We didn't quite see it, but he had a monster save in this. Bentley's perspective, and you couldn't see it because the helmet was in the way of that shot, but watch Stefan's hands here, because his right rear gets clipped by Bentley after the initial contact. Woof.
Lightning hands. And he saves it.
Great save.
Absolutely. So the Austrian can continue. Colin Bentley as well, but it seems like it's the end of the race for Henrik Tobias Bergman. Shame for the Norwegian, who was having a good race until that point, but he just couldn't avoid Colin Bentley, who checked up in front of him.
All right, this brings us to our 4th caution. Believe we have time for one more break here, so why don't we rest our voices for just a little bit while they get the field sorted out. Didn't even make it past turn 1 this time. We'll be back in a moment for more racing here at Pocono for round 10 of the Grand Prix Legends. Welcome back to Pocono Raceway. As we are watching round 10 here of the Grand Prix Legends Series, we are under our fourth caution of the day. And through the magic of modern technology, we've managed to get an in-race interview here with one of our drivers, Stefan Schlacher. We stuck him with one of those old 60s microphones that are as big as a suitcase, and somehow he squeezed inside the car. Stefan, it looks like it's been a lot of excitement out there, and we saw that you had a little bit of a scare on that last caution.
Yeah, you could tell it. So at least I'm having a brown suit, so that's not bad. No, the thing is, on the restart, I myself started in 21st. Saw Colin ahead, just slam it, and then I went ahead too, passed everyone on the middle side, so to speak. And yeah, I honestly don't know what Colin was doing there. It seemed like he had it saved, and then probably just reflexes, just went on the throttle again, which is completely deadly in this car. Spin around again, and yeah, as he said, super lucky I jumped the wheel there and don't appear to have any damage whatsoever.
Well, that's a very lucky break for yourself. Usually we hear a lot of chatter amongst drivers on the oval side, but it seems like the drivers here in the Grand Prix Legends Series are staying relatively quiet. What's the general vibe that you're getting down there on track from everyone?
I'm hearing a lot of snoring. Really, it's like Prado. Pedro, yeah, sure. No, Eduardo Prado, he already said he's playing Minesweeper already in the cautions. It's all the inexperience that we have with this car on oval tracks, especially a harder one like this one. It just comes down to this inexperience and not being used to driving these cars on oval.
Well, glad to see that at least the sense of humor is still going good out there. It looks like the lights are off on the pace car, though, so we are going to let you go to get prepared for this next restart. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Stefan Schlacher, he is going to be restarting in 13th position this time around, firmly in the mid-pack. Did have no one else rejoin. Bergman, unfortunately, is still in the pit, so we'll have 27 starters, one less than last time. That really being only a sort of single car incident that we saw. Obviously, contact was made, but really only one fell by the wayside. So, coming through turn 3 one more time. Colin Brown's got to be careful, or others might be able to start timing his starts with how early he's able to go. Or maybe he'll go too early. He might get a black flag. He was very quickly past that pace car, accelerating away. It is a battle for third with Mick Claridge much better on the high side. He might actually be able to get ahead of Michel Dudignon. Takes it deep into the corner. And I think Mick Claridge now holds that P3 spot. Battle behind him for 5th position between Jamie Hall and Rob Olenek.
Yeah, you were telling about timing the restart. I think Mick Claridge did that perfectly. He gets P3. He's having a great run for P2, but we see almost a change for the lead there. Colin Brown on the pressure by Adrius Valentijus, who took a look at the inside, didn't make it stick, but Adrius has a bad turn there through turn 2, and that gives Mick Claridge an opportunity. He's on the outside now in the final turn. Still side by side there on the outside. He might have more momentum, and he can take more momentum into the start-finish straight. That's very important there. You want all the extra speed that you can have. Meanwhile, Dudillon behind him, he's having a normal corner, so he's quicker than both of them. 3 wide over the start-finish straight. It is now very tight for Mick Claridge, who has one car on the left, one car on the right. It's Valentijus dropping back. The 2 championship rivals are nose to tail, but it's Mick Claridge who gets P2, stays in front of Dudillon. Now it's Jamie Hall getting P4 almost away from Adrius. Still side by side, those 2 wires that go out of turn 1.
And this all has been great news for Colin Brown, who stretches away to nearly half a second. Mick Claridge weaving to try and break the draft of Michel Dudignon. Finally starting to get a little bit of single file up at the top of the field, but look at the shot off of turn 2. Here comes Dudignon once again down to the inside. He's given space by Mick Claridge. side by side through the final turn back onto the front stretch, continuing to lose time on Cullen Brown with all this fighting just to sort out the podium.
Still side by side over start finish straight. Now don't forget that in practice Michel Dudillon was almost 0.4 of a second quicker than Claridge, so he has the speed, but he hasn't been able to really materialize that in good race pace yet. Nick Claridge getting a bounce in the middle of turn 1. That's not helping him, and that's not helping Dudillon either, who's stuck behind him on the exit. Now still goes to tilt. Dudillon is not close enough and doesn't have enough overdrive, I think, Joe, to try another move. But it seems like Cullen Brown this time around cannot drive away, and the draft is helping Nick Claridge to close the gap.
We saw from above, a little bit behind these two, that was Jamie Hall drifting high nearly into Valenteus, who was trying to pass for P4. It didn't work out. In fact, he fell way back as we continue to watch on board this battle for second place. I think this might be a good run from Dudillon, who's going to be well within the draft, and Claridge knows it. He immediately covers off the inside. Doesn't really do much to stop the momentum of Michel. Still, he's going to be able to defend successfully. Just behind them, a lot of action for fifth place. Rob Olenek, Eduardo Prado, Jamie Hall in a three-way fight to decide who gets the top 5.
Yeah, Prado's winning a position there versus Jamie Hall. Minesweeper is working for the Brazilian. He gets P6 at the moment. Meanwhile, we see a move for P2. Nick Claridge on the outside now with Michel Dudillon. Claridge stays in front. Adrius Valentisius, he has closed down the gap as we see another crash.
That was Rob Olenek getting air. Wheels connecting in turn 2. Excuse me, it wasn't Rob Olenek getting air. It was Eduardo Prado. 2 wheels up, both of them slam into the outside wall. Unfortunately, one of the qualities of this car is, well, without much downforce, it is on a trajectory once it heads in one direction.
Luckily, no one else got involved in that hard crash between the Brazilian and the American there, but no one else involved, and that's a miracle if you see where the crash actually happened, right on the exit of the corner. No one else was involved with that. Now this means that a bunch of drivers move up forward. Jamie Hall now in the top 5, Marco Kika 6, Stef Veenhoff in P7, and Stefan Slacker, who just spoke with him during the caution, he moves up to P8.
I said the sense of humor has remained among the drivers. Apparently the Brazilian still has a funny bone. He typed in the chat, "Sorry, Rob, at least we won't need to go through the next yellow." So it's a pragmatic view of things.
Absolutely. Well, I don't think that Cullen Brown will be too upset with maybe another yellow, because he was under a lot of pressure of Claridge, Dudillon and Valentinius behind in a couple of laps that we saw racing. But this will mean that for a few more laps he will stay the leader, and the amount of laps that he just has to defend that lead is getting fewer and fewer. As we cross the start-finish line, we only have 10 more laps to go.
What if we could find another replay of that incident? Because if we want a good view, Stef Veenhoff has great wreck avoidance here. Let's see. We're going to see if we can pull this one up. I know we've stepped away from this one. We've got time, though, so might as well try and get some interesting perspectives. Here we go. I think we've got it pulled up. Veenhoff was behind all of this. Oh, looks like we're still on caution here. Here we go. Coming through turn 1. You can kind of see all the battling happen in front of him, so at least he's got some inkling of a little bit of danger starting to brew up there as they come down the Long Pond Straight. Watch through the tunnel turn here, Johan. He basically reacts incredibly quickly, hugs the inside all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. He just stays on the inside. He sees ahead those two cars colliding. He knows that he has to stay to the inside to avoid them, and just manages to not only slow the car down, but also just keep it hugged to the inside until he's passed. So great avoidance from the Dutchman, who just really keeps his great top 10 position with that avoidance.
Absolutely. And speaking, you mentioned that he's a Dutchman. You'd think that something like this, with this being an oval, would have a lot of Americans, and there's a few out here. But here's a quick read down of some of the clubs we've got participating, even though it's an oval. So I think oval racing still has an international draw. We've got Hispano-America, Central Eastern Europe, a couple of those, number of UK and I drivers, Australia. We've also got Brazil, as we mentioned, although unfortunately Prado is now out of it. Scandinavia, Finland is out here represented. France, of course, with Dudignon. And then I believe Benelux, of
Norway.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, we also have Norway, I see. We have Austria and Germany in here. A bunch of UK and I drivers, as you said. So it is really a lot of territories outside of the US also being represented here. Good to see, but I think that's also one of the draws of like having a road car on an oval here. That a lot of the drivers can just drive the car that they used to on maybe a slightly unknown track for them, and just see where that ends up. Stefan Slacker, I don't know exactly what's happening with him at the moment. He's driving a bit erratically under safety car. Now he gets to going again. I think that Billy Bob Wright was trying to avoid what happened there. Maybe he was just trying to get a drink. Who can blame him for? I think this is the 4th or 5th caution already today. Now, meanwhile, let's look a little bit on the back of the grid, because we still have some drivers driving around who are a couple of laps down. What about Rodney Evans? He's currently driving a P22. Now, Rodney was one of the drivers that was involved in an incident early in the race. He was inside P21 he currently is in. He was involved in an incident early in the race. He has to stunt in the pits for several laps. But he came out and he just continued. And this is maybe one of the possible winners of the Dory Award today, because by just going out again after that long pit stop full of repairs, he has just gained, I think, something like 10, 12 positions out on the track. And it gains him a lot of points, a lot of I rating, also some safety rating. So in the end, a good race for Rodney Evans to just keep it clean after his incident in the opening part of the race.
Yeah, he recently got one of those from Prado, and he should get another one from Olenek soon, unless Olenek can get that car back out. He's still taking repairs in the pits. And we talked about the international flair that we've got here today, and though we do have that in Indianapolis now currently, but it wasn't always that way. In fact, the Lotus team was part of the international revival that happened in the 60s. Jim Clark was the first non-American to win the 500 since 1916, I believe it was. It was a long gap before they got another international winner. The lights go out and the cars now get double file. We keep talking about Indianapolis. Of course, this is Pocono that we're racing at. But of course, this being something of a faux Indy race that we're holding here. Back to the old days before they put aero on the cars, and USAC was still whipping around the various oval circuits all around the U.S. Going to be 7 to go this time by. We haven't paid all that much attention to the laps. There have been so many cautions, and we did finally get a lot of green flag laps last time through. Hopefully we'll be able to get to the end under green, as we have no green white checkers here today. So this could finish under caution depending on when the next yellow flies, if it flies. Out of the tunnel turn, Johan, and getting ready for another restart.
Yeah, and I'm really curious what Mick Claridge can do on the restart, because the last time he was, maybe apart from the leader at the moment, the driver that was most aware on when to go on the throttle again. If Mick Claridge can have another superb restart as he had last time, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Brits side by side for the lead in turn one.
Yeah, I'm honestly impressed the way that Mick seems to have kind of sussed out how to race these ovals. But as the green flag comes out, Cullen Brown once again with a great start. Dudignon down to the inside, but look at Vantelius. Vantelius also has figured out how to time these starts, but as good of a run as he got, he lifted on his way down towards one, thinking better of it trying to get a little bit of green flag running, let the cars spread out up at the front. Colin Brown has been wonderful ever since he took the lead away and has not been challenged hardly at all since. Looks like we're going to have a move back there in fourth place as Marco Kika manages to get by Valenteus. Oh, but we got a car down to the inside. Are we going to get a caution? Yeah, we are. That is a big accident. That was Valenteus.
Jamie Hall was involved in that. I think that also Colin Bentley was involved in that, although he probably got off lighter than anyone in front of him. It all started with Jamie Hall. Jamie Hall on the rundown towards, I think, turn 3 that was. He just didn't anticipate how early Marco Kika was stepping on the brakes. That really was a panic brake that he had to do, just like Ove Trangerade explained he had to do. Car swerves onto the grass, he cannot save it, and hard goes into the side of Adrius Valenteus.
That was some incredible air that Valenteus managed to get. And as you mentioned, he got clobbered a second time by Colin Bentley. Let's get another angle. I mean, thankfully, this being sim racing, nobody is hurt here, so we can watch this multiple times guilt-free. Number of drivers. Did anybody actually go underneath him? Looks like no, he was well out of the way. Still, some incredible avoidance by a number of drivers. Eric Lukal, once again, just keeping his head cool, managing to stay out of it. He absolutely threads the needle between Billy Bob Wright and the incident. Watch this. You can see from the TV cams. Again, very similar to last time. He's going to duck down low, but he also has Billy Bob Wright to watch out for. Inches either way, I think he would have been involved in that one.
Yeah, I think he could have high-fived Adrius if he wanted to at that point, but luckily for the German, he can continue, and he actually can just continue his great race, up 12 positions so far in P8. So a good race from the German, who was fighting very hard with Billy Bob Wright, and that's maybe a battle that we have to keep in the back of our head going towards the last part of the race, because I think once we go racing again, it will be until the end of the race, until we or if maybe we get a caution again. Those two drivers are very close on pace and on track at the moment. Meanwhile, this crash means, Joe, that one of the main protagonists of this race is out. Adrius Valenteus. He was one of the big threats for Colin Brown, but also for Mick Claridge and Michel Dundillon. Now, however, I think that Mick and Michel can just look forward and really focus on fully attacking Colin Brown, but they have to look behind them as well, because P4 Marco Kika and P5 Stefan Slacker, he's just like Moses through the Red Sea, just parting every crash in front of him. Both these drivers have been extremely clean today and just winning positions left and right, both in the top 5 now.
It's been a little bit of survival mode for these drivers. As you mentioned, some of them gaining many positions just by keeping the car clean. And indeed, this will be our last restart no matter what, because if we have another caution, that will end it. Interesting note from Ove Trangerade that I guess if we get 10 more minutes, actually less than that now because he said that a bit ago, it'll be a 1-hour race. I wonder if that's a record for the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, what their longest official race has been here on iRacing. They've done some full Grand Prix length races on the hosted side just for fun. I believe they did Watkins Glen one year. That was certainly an endurance race for those drivers. I wonder if I'd love to see them do that again, honestly. Get a nice long one and see who fares the best among them. This car certainly elicits enough mistakes that even if they get some gaps, nothing is over until all is said and done. Lights are still on. How many do we have still running here so far? I'm seeing 25 roughly. Now that we've lost Valenteus and he falls down the order, Prado is out as well. So Yeah, should be 25 cars taking this restart.
Yeah, that's a bunch of drivers still in. A lot of these drivers, of course, were involved in earlier incidents. I think a driver that's driving at the moment that's the most laps down is Gary Thiel. He's driving around to P27. 9 laps down at the moment. He was, of course, involved in that incident with Dave Price. Looking at his car, however, it seems like they managed to fix his car mostly in the pits. His steering is actually quite straight as well, looking from on board his cockpit, so he doesn't have to keep it 45 degrees to the right to keep it in a straight line. Gary Thiel, 9 laps down, still trying to get some points, but for that to happen, he needs to gain at least 2 more positions, because remember, only the top 25 drivers will score points here at Pocono.
Colin Brown can manage to take this one away. He'll be only the 3rd different driver to win so far this season, and we are in round 10. If this is your first time watching, it hasn't been evenly split between the other two. Mick Claridge, who will restart in 2nd place, has won 1 of them. And Michel Dudignon has won all of the other 8. So, hopefully we'll get the lights out this time.
Yeah, De Jong has been on a great run of performance this season, winning almost all the races, like you mentioned, Joe. And it is really interesting to see some other drivers near the top at the moment. Mostly, I think that Cullen is just an oval specialist, as the lights are actually going out on the pace car, and that's helping Cullen to really fight for the win here. But it's just nice to see that Michael gets a curveball thrown at him, and he really has to figure out how to beat an oval specialist and also his main rival Mick Claridge at the same time. He's currently sitting P3. He's not out of it yet, but he has only 3 more laps to go. 2 more laps to go once we start racing to get by 2 drivers and get another win this season.
Now, as we were watching with the 4, you could see off to the left, that was Mick Claridge, who looked to be braking and accelerating quite a bit. And I'm wondering if he's trying to burn some fuel. I wouldn't think that he's trying to heat up the tires, because the track temperature relatively high today. Now he's stopped doing it, but along the front stretch he was just accelerating and braking very quickly, and I wasn't sure if maybe he's trying to make the car that little bit lighter to give him an edge, as we are going to get restarted with 2 to go. The good news is, Johan, they only have to make 1 lap. Because once the white flag flies, we cannot go under yellow again. We'll get a green flag finish. But they got to make that first lap.
Yeah, they have to do it. So the real chance for Mick Claridge to get this win is just get another blistering restart, as he had 2 restarts ago. And that's his main chance to get by Colin Brown. He really needs to do it in turn 1.
All right. Will he get the chance? Will he manage to have an opportunity to overtake? Because again, a caution will end it if they get one. Pace car is in. Colin Brown is off and green flag is out. Look at, wow, all the way down almost to the pit wall for Colin Brown, trying to fend off, but Michel Dudignon timed this one just magnificently. He'll have the way inside, though. He is way too shallow coming into the corner. That is not going to give him the spot. Mick Claridge stays in 2nd, and Marco Kika thinks about taking 3rd from Michel Dudignon. So far, so good. Out of turn 1. Once again, Cullen all the way down to the inside, trying to break that draft. Back up to the racing line. They come into the tunnel turn. This has been a trouble spot so far today. Tricky for a number of drivers. It is mostly single file. We do have a big wreck happening, and it is going to end under caution. Mitchell Sullivan involved in that one.
A lot of drivers as well. Robert Reynolds and Rodney Evans going to the grass. Jasmine Beats involved as well, and this is really an anticlimax to this race. Michael Sullivan, we go to replay of what exactly happened with him. You can see it. He was following Jasmine Beats, and Jasmine Beats losing a lot of momentum going into the corner. Michael Sullivan not able to avoid that, runs into the back of Jasmine and just causes a huge power behind.
Gary Thiel also involved, Ben Laughter, Daniel Sadro with another one. He was on the first accident of the day. Everybody else managed to avoid it. Looks like a couple were clipped. I think Rodney Evanson and Robert Reynolds got a little contact out of that, but they did sneak through in the end. So they are now behind the pace car, and the white flag is out. One more look at Reynolds just at the very tail end. Took to the grass to try and get away from it.
I don't know if you already saw an onboard from Ben Laughter, but he had a prime spot in that crash. If we go on board with Ben Laughter during that crash, this was one of the most amazing views that we had all race, because we're going over him left and right. We are on board with the Floridian driver. He already picked up a knock earlier in the race, but as the crash happens in front of him.
Wow, that is a lot.
Everything.
Incredible.
And he finishes with that broken car, with that damaged car. In the end, I don't know exactly where he will finish. He's currently P22. He might gain a few positions. P21, sorry. He might gain a few positions because of that crash.
Meanwhile, we have to get to our leader because we will have a winner here in just a moment's time. Cullen Brown is behind the pace car and takes the victory here today at Pocono. A pass early on wound up being very decisive for the number 4. We're going to come back to try and unravel all of this and talk to some of our drivers in the process. We're going to take a quick break where you will see all the upcoming races here on the Global Sim Racing channel. And then, of course, we'll have driver interviews as well as the official results. So don't go away.
Of the best sim racers, $100,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is the most competitive and sought-after season in iRacing World Championship history. This is where legends are made. This is the Porsche Esports Super Cup.
Welcome back to Pocono Raceway. There were a few cautions, but we did get some good racing when it was green here for round 10. And it was Cullen Brown to become the third winner of the season, ahead of Mick Claridge. Dudignon still on every single podium here in Season 3. He finishes third today. Marco Kika from 11th to 4th for him. And then Stefan Schlacker with a nice climb, cracking the top 5 after qualifying in 9th. Steph Vainhoff, how about this? 17th on the grid, and he winds up 6th. Billy Bob Wright as well gets his way up into 7th. Craig Harrigan goes from 23rd to 8th. I think that's the biggest one we've seen yet. It seems like staying clean was a big part of today. Colin Bentley gets a 9th place, and then Martin Krejcik in the top 10 himself.
Yeah, another driver that just stayed clean for a long time in this race and won a lot of positions. Andrew Ng, he gained 20 positions from 31st to 11th. Great finishing position for Eng, just outside of the top 10. Jamie Hall comes home one position behind him in front of Gary Anderson, Robert Reynolds, also two drivers who didn't set a qualifying time. Together with Andrew Eng, they all started from the last 3 positions on the grid, but they kept it clean and finished within 10 seconds of the lead. Jasmine Beach comes home in P15 in front of Eric Leukel, the last driver on the lead lap. And then we have to go to some drivers that actually had trouble during the race and were involved in the crash, starting with Michael Sullivan, who was involved in the last crash during the race. Rob Olenek only comes home in P18. Colin Coker 3 laps down in P19, and rounding out the top 20, it is Rodney Evans.
Ben Laughter was 5 laps down in 21st, followed by Bill Tyler in 22nd. Andre Bruno comes home 23rd. Then we get to DNS for the day. Adrius Valenteus in 24th. He looked like he could have been a contender for the win. It was not to be. Sadro 25th with Gary Teal also out 26. Eduardo Prado 27th. Bergman 28th. Trengray 29th. And Aiken 30th. Then it's Rossi, Price, and Snelson, the last 3 of our 33 car field. Let's talk to our second place finisher, though, Mick Claridge. Mick, the thing that strikes me is that you seem to have really gotten those restarts figured out. I can't remember which one it was, but one of them certainly net you a bunch of spots and what led to you eventually getting up to second place.
Hi, Joe. Yeah, I was. Well, the restart wasn't bad. My second gear wasn't too bad. My third gear was horrendous. So I really had to get a good jump on anyone, if I was going to try and make anything of it. But the car was so fast in turn 1 on the first lap, and so I was able to keep Michelle behind at the end there. But I was annoyed because I was watching Cullen's restarts and I was thinking, okay, he seems to be going as soon as the pace car's going in, and on the last one there. The pace car ducked in, and he just waited a little split second later, and I went, and I thought I had to come off the power, and then go again. So I think it would have been a lot closer then if I was able to nail it. But yeah, enjoy that, did you, Joe?
We did enjoy watching you. I guess he kept you on your toes. But talk about the setup of the car, because it's a little bit different over here on the oval side compared to the road side. Did you try and do an asymmetrical setup to get more speed out of it, or did you do anything special?
Yeah, I found out that a long time ago that you can't really set this car up for oval with springs and stuff, but you can do the camber stuff and change that and get that asymmetrical. So yeah, full left camber on the whole car. And but what I found out was if you use a really stiff rear bar, then it just really grips up on the exits. So that's what I did, and I just stuck with it all week. And I seem to sort of get some results with that. But yeah, no, it's tough. None of us know how to set the car up for these tracks,
Yeah, a little bit of foreign territory. All right. Well, the series has done Indianapolis. Phoenix was once run many seasons ago. Now Talladega and Pocono. The ovals, how's this one rank among them for you?
It's really good. I think everyone's enjoyed it, because you have to actually brake for the corners, and then it's all about sort of getting off these turns, and it's really good. Next season we're going to Michigan, the old layout, the old version, so that should be just as good. I've heard good things from the oval guys coming in this week, that we're telling we're going to Michigan next season, and everyone's raving about that. So yeah, no, I like the ovals. I think they're good. It changes everything up. There's been a bunch of races this week. So it's been really good for everything.
Yeah, we were surprised to see 33, but congratulations on a second place. It wasn't a win today, but still, you beat out Michelle.
Yeah, nice one. Always happy to do that. Cheers.
That was second place finisher Mick Claridge. Up next, Johan's going to talk to Stefan Schlacker, who took 5th today.
Yeah, and not only did he take fifth, he equaled his best finishing result this season. So congratulations with that, Stefan. Now, at one point in the race, you were driving in P21. I think that was around the third restart. In the end, you come home with a top 5 position. Where was your secret?
I would say the cautions. No, I've been able to find a very good rhythm, especially out of turn two into turn three. After a third restart, or sorry, fourth restart, I actually overtook like four people in there. So yeah, I don't know why, but I've really been able to find the grip into turn three and really keep it down there, and then being able to power it out again. Um, I might have been able to do the same with Marco for fourth the next lap because I was setting him up for that. But yeah, the caution came out. So yeah, fifth place, still extremely happy as I said, tying my best result this season. And coming from so far back, that's no mean feat, especially because at the start of the race, I was thinking, all right, ninth place, let's hold the top 10 and that'll be good.
No, he absolutely held the top 10, and that's so. Now we asked Mick just now how much he likes Pocono. I kind of want to ask the same question to you. How much do you like Pocono compared to, for example, Indianapolis in the 49 or Talladega in the 49, or maybe if you tried it already, Michigan in the 49? Is this one of your favorites? Do you prefer those other over?
In general, Pocono is one of my best ovals on iRacing, or this is my best oval. This was the 14th race I've ever done. I've only ever crashed out once, so that's now my 13th top five. Out of these 13 top fives, I have 8 podium finishes, 5 wins. I really like the Lotus 49. It pretty much any circumstance, it is just a car that fits me because I am very soft on my inputs. But I haven't tried Michigan yet. That will be for sure a much different challenge because it is fast, but not as fast as Talladega. So you still have to brake, you still have to do a little bit for the car. So it will be interesting what we can see there next season. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, very cool. We'll keep an eye on that. Congratulations once again with your P5, Stefan. Thank you for coming to the booth to talk with us.
Yeah, thank you, and congrats on surviving the race.
That was our fifth place finisher, Stefan Schlacker. And that is going to wrap things up for us. So, of course, we want to thank the Lotus 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And of course, we also want to thank iRacing themselves for putting us on IESN. Again, make sure and subscribe. All you got to do is go to their YouTube page or just below this video, click on the big red button that says subscribe, and you won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. Of course, thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The next race, it's back to the road side of things. We're going to Okayama for Japan, Saturday, August 24th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. But we have other upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.